Today I have with me the Oppo Reno Ace, which I've recently unboxed, as well as the Realme X2 Pro, which are both awesome phones, but finally we're getting to the OnePlus 7T. All three phones are really similar, so it'll be really interesting to see how they stack up against one another, which we'll be getting onto later on. We have a silicone case on the box, and it doesn't look that great in my honest opinion, and we have a nice red accents cable from OnePlus, pairing with a 30-watt fast warp charger, which is really cool, though the size is pretty massive, and the Realme block is actually a 50-watt block, smaller than the OnePlus, and the Oppo is almost the same size with a 65-watt, which is more than double that of the OnePlus. Now that's a sound everyone loves to hear, and this is the OnePlus 7T. Looks absolutely stunning in the silver color over here. There is a blue one, and yes, it is a bit different to its predecessor, though I did think that the silver one stands out. And showing you guys that silicone case, it's not too bad for day one use, but I do recommend getting a sandstone case from OnePlus themselves. They're really awesome cases to go for. They all look pretty similar over here, and as you guys can see, the camera bumps are a little bit different, and the branding is a little bit different on the back too, though we'll get to that a little bit later on. On the side of the OnePlus 7T, we have the power button over there, which is not textured, and there is no indent like seen on the Oppo and on the Realme to make it easier to find, though we do have a nice textured grip on top of the mute function on the OnePlus, which you don't see on either the Realme or the Oppo phone alike. At the top of the OnePlus 7T, it is nice and smooth. On the left, we have a volume rocker, which is unfortunately not split, as we do see on the Oppo Reno Ace and on the Realme X2 Pro, which I really gave a thumbs up for in the unboxings. Opening up that SIM card tray, we do have dual SIM over there. Unfortunately, there is no support for microSD. And we also have no headphone jack at the bottom, where the other two do support it. Fortunately though, we do have USB 3.1 speeds instead of USB 2 as seen on the others, which is really cool with Type-C. And we have a bottom firing speaker, which is paired with a top mounted speaker, which is dual facing, and this is indeed paired with Dolby Atmos. We have a 16 megapixel f2.0 selfie snapper on the front, which should take some really awesome pictures. We'll get to that later on. And at the back, we have a 48 megapixel Sony IMX586 sensor with an aperture of f1.6, a 12 megapixel telephoto lens with an aperture of f2.2, and finally a 16 megapixel ultra wide with an aperture of f2.2. These are pretty awesome cameras here, guys, and I won't lie, the setup looks really cool and really unique over here. The other ones do have an extra camera though. On the Reno Ace, we have a 2 megapixel black and white camera, and on the Realme X2 Pro, we have a 2 megapixel depth sensor, which is actually useful in my opinion. And the Realme comes paired with a 64 megapixel Samsung GW1 sensor, arguably slightly better than the IMX586 sensor, but we'll get to that later when we do a camera comparison. So check out the bottom over there if you guys are looking for what section that you would like to jump to in this video, if this current section is not doing it for you and you want to jump straight into the action. With the logos on the back, I'm not quite sure what Realme were doing over there, but when it comes to the software department, the OnePlus 7T looks absolutely stunning. Software aside for a moment, we have a 6.55 inch Fluid AMOLED panel on the OnePlus 7T with the latest Hydrogen OS 10, which is purely based on Android 10. The Oppo Reno Ace and the Realme X2 Pro are still stuck on Android P out the box, which really sucks, but we should see updates pretty soon. When looking at the screens, I do think that the OnePlus is slightly brighter than the others, but this is the Oppo on the left and the Reno on the right, and now we're going to the OnePlus on the left over here and the Realme on our right hand side. And you guys can see that OnePlus does have slimmer bezels. It is pretty much a smaller build with a bigger screen, so no surprise over there. Now with gestures, OnePlus have actually taken away its standard gestures. Yes, we do have gestures, but to go back you have to swipe in from the left or the right of the screen, much like other Chinese companies have embedded into their phones, though the Oppo and the Realme both are still using OnePlus formula gesture styles, which is going up the bottom right corner to go back, and we have the same swipe up gestures from both sides of the panel as well that you do see on the OnePlus, though we have the option of using either one here, where OnePlus is forcing you to use the back gestures on the side of the phone. We do have 90 Hz on all three panels, which are all pretty similar over here, though we do have the Fluid AMOLED on the OnePlus. We have an auto select mode on the Reno, but we don't have that on the OnePlus, and more importantly on the Realme X2 Pro, we actually have the options of choosing which apps utilize that 90 Hz refresh rate panel, which is really cool. Now going into ambient display, these are all AMOLED panels, but unfortunately there is no always on display here. We do have ambient display on the OnePlus, meaning that you can tap the screen to see information such as notifications and your clock widget over there, but there is no other goodies there. What you can do on OnePlus is a lot of customizations. Guys, we are talking about different app icon roundness and square box likeness, but the most important thing is dark mode, which everyone loves when using an AMOLED panel, not only for battery, but also it's easy on your eyes and it looks damn awesome. And we do have that on the OnePlus, and we do have it in beta mode on the Realme X2 Pro. It should be fully fledged when Android 10 rolls out on it. And unfortunately on the Oppo Reno Ace, we do not have dark mode at all, not even under developer options where I have seen it before. Hopefully we see that change with a future update. Now when it comes to fingerprint scanners over here, we have 3 optical scanners, well, 1 on each device, and I must say that they are pretty similar. If anything, the OnePlus slightly slower than the rest. Where the OnePlus is slower is definitely the facial recognition. I have tested this with other wallpapers, so the dynamic one doesn't really make a difference over here, but you can definitely see the lock screen animations when you do use facial recognition here, as you guys can see over there. If you go in super slow motion here, you guys can definitely see a little bit of the lock screen on the OnePlus where you don't see that on the other devices. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with Hydrogen OS on the OnePlus 7T, and I'm pretty impressed with all of the skins on these phones. I do like the aesthetic with the app drawer being transparent on the Oppo, but that can be fixed with a launcher, especially on the OnePlus if you do prefer that kind of thing. Now moving on to cameras here, guys, we're going to use my little friend Groot here as a companion for all 3 devices when comparing. And when comparing the shots over here, we're going to be showing the Oppo Reno Ace on our left hand side, the OnePlus 7T in the middle, and the Realme X2 Pro on the right. We started with an ultra wide there. Now we're using the main raw sensor over here, 48 megapixel on the Reno and OnePlus, and X2 is using the 64 megapixel shot. I showed a bind shot over there. Now this is a bind portrait. Bind means that we're using interpolation to get a lower megapixel count but a higher detailed shot. The optical zoom looks pretty great and the portraits look pretty cool too. This is outside my apartment block over here, and I must say that there is no window in the way of this shot, so if it looks a bit watery out on the Realme and the Oppo, that is actually the camera. So I think that the OnePlus 7T definitely stands out when it comes to making colors pop over here. And with 2 times optical zoom, they all look pretty good, but the OnePlus definitely stands out if you ask me. We do have 5 times hybrid zoom on the Oppo and on the Realme, and we don't have that on the OnePlus, but the colors still seem to be better on the OnePlus 7T. But we do not have more than 10 times zoom on the OnePlus 7T, where we have a max of 20 times on the Realme X2 Pro and Oppo Reno Ace. In the front, things look once again washed out on the Realme and the Oppo, but I must say that the Realme holds the most amount of detail here, and the OnePlus loses a bit, but its colors are just once again really natural. All phones are capable of 4K 60 frames per second. They all look really good, and we do have that option to flick into telephoto on all phones while recording, which is really cool. We can also use 5 times hybrid zoom on the Realme X2 Pro and on the Oppo Reno Ace, but we cannot go into 5 times digital zoom on the OnePlus 7T. We also have Full HD 60 FPS of course, but I'm showing you guys 30 FPS here because we can switch between main, telephoto and ultra wide on all 3 phones. Though we can go 5 times hybrid once again on the Reno and the X2 Pro, but we do not have that feature on the OnePlus 7T, unfortunately. What I did want to show you guys though is that with only the OnePlus 7T, you can record ultra wide 4K 30 FPS. You cannot switch between the three cameras when recording at 4K, but ultra wide looks absolutely stunning when recording with 4K. Now moving on to the charging test over here, guys, the Oppo has a 65 watt charging block, definitely the best of the bunch with a 4000 mAh battery. The Realme X2 Pro also has a 4000 mAh battery but a 50 watt block, and we have a 30 watt fast charging block on the OnePlus 7T, and that is the smallest battery of the bunch, which is indeed 3800 milliamps. Now we're going to do this test over here, and shooting into the first 5 minutes, you guys can see we started at 50% on all 3 phones, and we've jumped up to 70% on the Oppo Reno Ace and the Realme X2 Pro, just 62% on the 7T. So that's only 12% higher on the OnePlus 7T from that initial 50% starting point. But after 10 minutes, you guys can see that we've almost hit 40% on the Realme X2 Pro, and things look really good. I must say it looks really awesome. And moving on to that 15-minute mark, the Realme X2 Pro definitely clocks out there with 50% in just 15 minutes. And after 17 minutes, we have the Oppo Reno Ace, which is actually slower, surprisingly surprisingly enough, since they have both the same sized battery and the Oppo has a faster charger, the Realme wins there, with the OnePlus only capping out at 35% of juice in just 17 minutes, where the other two got 50. So if you want the best charging, definitely don't go for the OnePlus. I didn't think that I would ever have to say that. Now, I have put on high performance mode on the Realme and on the Oppo over here. There's no high performance on the OnePlus, but we do have game space, so we are going to be using Fanatic mode when jumping into AnTuTu here for the AnTuTu Benchmark. They're all running the same version 8.1.1 over here. We have put Fanatic mode on the OnePlus 70, and we're going to let the test run extremely fast over here, guys. I'm trying to get through this as fast as I possibly can for you guys. We will have Snapdragon 855 Plus processing chips in all of the phones, but the OnePlus 70 takes the cake over here with 485,000 points. Behind it, the X2 Pro with 461, and the Oppo Reno Ace in last place with 459. The average is 471,000 on Snapdragon 855 Plus phones. We have 33.3 degrees Celsius on the Oppo, 35 on the Realme, and 38 degrees on the 70. Definitely gets much hotter with the battery degrees temperature there. Then when it comes to CPU, the hottest that we have here is the Realme, and the OnePlus 70 and Reno are definitely cooler than the X2 Pro, though they're all pretty similar, I must say, and well above the average rating there. Overall, I think that they are all very good performance, and I honestly do love the absolute aesthetic of this OnePlus. It doesn't feel any different on the back, but it looks absolutely stunning. Nothing can beat Hydrogen OS Android 10 update over here. It looks absolutely stunning, really simplistic, the most stock that you're going to see on any phone other than a Google phone. I actually think definitely better than the new Pixel 4. That Android 10 is just doing something that other phones are not doing with OnePlus. We also have that extra feature on the side, being able to switch to mute, but there are unfortunately some drawbacks of the OnePlus, such as no headphone jack, which the other two do embed, and we don't have a split volume rocker, which the other two also have. We do have a pretty hefty camera bump on the back of the OnePlus 70. The other two are pretty big, but the OnePlus is definitely the biggest around that I have seen on a phone since the Xiaomi Mi 9. Though I must say, with all these features around and the price points, I'm going to put the Oppo Reno Ace to the side. It's pretty much between these two boys over here, the OnePlus 70 and the Realme X2 Pro. I know which phone I'm sticking with. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, which one you decide to pick up.